Streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and blasttheradio.com, this is The Lowell Green Show. The number to call and be heard around the world is 613-413-2217. Or email Lowell at blasttheradio.com. And now, here is Lowell Green.
John, this is a day of celebration.
Is it ever?
For Blast the Radio, John. What's going on here? Celebratory?
I mean, if I can get my butt to carp and have another shot of scotch with Debbie, I'm going to, because yours truly is finally out of Facebook jail after 30 long days, Lowell.
And this extends the ability for people to hear this program. Am I correct on that?
No, it absolutely does. And it certainly makes it easier for me to be able to launch the program, because what I had to do is, okay, so here it is on the Lowell Green page. I'll share it here. Now I'll share it here. Now I'll share it here. Now it's one click and we're on about 8 different Facebook pages. So,
and why did they jail you?
I posted a picture about a year ago of an electrical socket and said, go ahead and put a fork in it. Don't worry about what the experts say. You know better.
And they put you in jail for 30 days for that.
30 days. And, Lowell, I'm not allowed to advertise my business on Facebook for 30 days. If they don't have that kind of sense of humor, I'm not sure I want to. Anyway.
You know, in a way, we're talking about a bias of the media. And, of course, Facebook is 100%. Part of the media.
100%.
But I'm going to give you a chance very shortly to your comment about what you think is going to happen on Monday. God help us all. But there's a lot of people who don't quite understand sometimes when I talk about bias in the media. Let me give you a prime example of something that happened today. I'm just shaking my head. I mean, we have, it seems to me that the major story today is the fact that Canada, for the first time, has been cut out of a major security deal involving the UK, Australia, and the United States. Under normal circumstances, Canada would be part of that. But for some reason, obviously as a reflection of our lessening role on the world stage, we've been cut out. So we've just been ignored. To me, that's a major story. It's an illustration of, as I say, our lessening role. We're less and less important on the world stage, thanks to Trudeau and his policies. But is that the number one story? No. We've got runaway inflation, 4.1%. A little bit of comment about that yesterday. No mention today. We've got soaring cost of living. Price of almost everything going up 10, 15, 20%. Gas going up 30%. A little bit of a mention of that yesterday. Not much, nothing today. We still have over 1,000 Canadian citizens stranded at the mercy of the Taliban in Afghanistan because we cut and run. We abandoned them. Trudeau abandoned them. We've got Jody Wilson-Raybould's book out that paints a very nasty portrait of that nest of scoundrels in the Prime Minister's office. We've got Trudeau breaking provincial laws, assembling a large number of people against, as I say, provincial laws. But are any of those the major story today? No. You know what the major story today is? In fact, the National Post even headlines the fact this story may cost O'Toole the election. You know what it is? Well, O'Toole refused to comment when asked about his opinion of Jason Kenney. This is the number one story? O'Toole has stated time and time again he does not wish to politicize the pandemic. Trudeau, of course, is. Almost everything that Trudeau utters is politicizing or attempting to politicize the pandemic. But O'Toole says, no, I won't politicize this. This is a national disaster we've got. We've got to deal with it in unity. So when asked, you know what's happening in Alberta. It's a disaster. Very clearly, Jason Kenney made a mistake when he opened the province up. And O'Toole in the past has showed some support. So what? But this, I mean, it may be, this is a story that maybe should be buried on page 27. But no, this is the big story. This is, according to, as I say, some commentators, this may cost him the election. All those other things, forget about it. Forget about the fact we've been cut out of the security deal, the runaway inflation, soaring cost of living, Afghanistan, the two Michaels, forget about them. Forget about Jody Wilson-Raybould, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. No, the real problem here is Jason Kenney, well, he's made a mistake here, which he apologized for, and our friend O'Toole won't comment on it. I mean, you don't think that's bias? Honest to God. Honest to God. All right. That's my rant on that one. But it's just so typical. And the bias exists almost everywhere. Many times you don't notice it. And by the way, maybe one of the reasons is the fact, and this once again is a story that's been totally ignored by all of the media, $61 million that went out to various segments of the media. I went through some of this yesterday. Canadian Pizza got 27,000. The Tomato Food and Drink magazine got 37,000. The Mountain Scudder Snowmobile magazine got 32,000. Sharp, the book for men, got $163,000. Not a mention. No, the big story is not that. Not $61 million of your money that went out. No. We won't even mention that. No, the big story is O'Toole wouldn't comment on Jason Kenney. Unbelievable. So, what do you think is going to happen on Monday, folks? This is your last chance to comment before the big day. Can the Conservatives win, or is Max going to siphon off enough votes to hand the victory to Trudeau? Because really that's largely what it boils down to. Most polling shows almost a neck-and-neck race between O'Toole and Trudeau, but the People's Party shows support somewhere between 5 and 6%. Sufficient votes, in fact. I have done some research on this, and I'm not alone. If you use the last election's figures, it would indicate that if 5% of the vote that would otherwise go Conservative goes to Mad Max, it will probably cost the Conservatives somewhere between 10 and 14 seats. In other words, it will very handily hand the victory to Trudeau. It's really quite incredible when you stop and think about it, because most of those people that are going to vote People's Party hate Trudeau. They want to get rid of Trudeau. And yet they are taking an action, voting for Mad Max, that almost guarantees that Trudeau will win. I mean, is Canada the only place where you'd see that kind of folly? I don't know. It's crazy. My only hope is, as a Conservative, my only hope is that more people who are angry at Trudeau will bother to show up at the polls than those who are just rather less enthusiastic about Trudeau. That could happen, in which case, even despite the siphoning off by Mad Max, the Conservatives could still win. Because anger is a very powerful motivating force. And there's no question there's a great deal of anger towards Trudeau in this country, right across the country. So if more of those people, if that motivates more people, in other words, larger group of people who are angry, because it's very difficult to stir up much enthusiasm for Trudeau. I mean, what program, what platform would you reward Trudeau for? Pretty hard to come up with anything. So that's my only hope. What do you think, folks? John, go through the how people get in touch with us again.
On Facebook, you can follow Blast the Radio. You can follow The Lowell Green Show. You can follow The Lowell Green. You can follow me. We're on YouTube. We're on Twitch as well. Of course, we're on blasttheradio.com. Ask your smart speaker to play. Blasttheradio.com. And the phone number is 613-413-2217. We've got a bunch of texts lined up for you, Lowell, when you're ready.
Yep. Fire away.
Lowell Green, hello. It's not always easy to write a first message. She's hitting on you. Never mind. We'll move on from that. Wow. Hey, there you go. She thinks you're cute. Anne says, I will never forgive my fellow Canadians if they vote Trudeau back in. Pat says, sad, but I think it'll be a couple more years of the same. Hope not. Chrissy says, still can't believe a 10-cent raise is coming. Really? I don't see that justifying everything that has come up from groceries, etc. These minimum wage workers deserve more. Craig says, I'm expecting a minority government formed by either the Liberals or Conservative. Julie is watching on Twitch. Her comment is, nothing is going to change on Monday. It'll be the status quo, and then we can say this election was a waste of money. Did you know if you get COVID, you will not be able to vote on Monday because you will be in quarantine? Murray says, you might be surprised by the PPC. Cheryl says a vote for the PPC is a vote for Trudeau. And Cheryl says, Lowell, just a question. How are the people with COVID supposed to vote? P.S. It's not me, she says.
Ask Trudeau. He called the election. I don't have the answer. It's a good question. Very good question. But very clearly, I don't have the answer. I think that's a question that should be put to Trudeau. And once again, we're talking about bias in the media. Have you seen any segment of the media ask him that question? It would seem to me to be a pretty important question. Okay, we know that there are going to be large numbers of people with COVID come Monday. The figures are there. We all know what they are. How are they supposed to vote? Ask Trudeau. He called the election, please. One of the things I must tell you that puzzles me a little bit, you may recall that in the last election, which by the way was only, 2 years ago, Andrew Scheer, the Conservatives, actually polled more popular votes than did Justin Trudeau, by a fairly substantial number. Almost a million. I got almost a million more popular votes than did Justin Trudeau. But because of the configuration of the various ridings, we all know what happened, and that is that Trudeau went back in with a minority. But one of the things that I find a little hard to figure out is it just puzzles me that O'Toole would receive fewer votes than Scheer did, or that Trudeau would receive more votes this time than he did last time. I find that hard to believe, which brings us back once again to the issue of the People's Party. Is that where the votes are going? It would just seem to me, listen, if Scheer outpolled Justin Trudeau in the last election, we've had 2 more years of scandal, Afghanistan, cost of living, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, all of that. Surely to God, Trudeau would not have picked up more popularity than he had 2 years ago. And surely to God, you would think that O'Toole would pick up a few more votes than did Scheer. I mean, it's generally acknowledged that O'Toole has done a much better job of campaigning than did Scheer. I mean, almost everybody agrees. So it's hard for me to believe that, in fact, it's hard for me to believe that O'Toole is polling below the Liberals. I find that a little hard to believe. But we'll have to wait, of course, until Monday to see it. As I say, it really, in my opinion, boils down to how many people actually turn out to vote for the People's Party, Mad Max. Because I repeat, and I'm not alone. I mean, there are any number of assessments done on this, and that is that if 5% of the votes are siphoned off the Conservatives and go to Mad Max, that's going to cost the Conservatives anywhere between 10 and 14 ridings. There are 10 to 14 ridings that are very, very close, or were last time, and probably will be very, very close this time. And if they had an additional 5% of the vote, my goodness, the Conservatives would win it handily. We have someone on the phone. Rob's on the phone. Yes, Rob. What's your view here?
Hi, Lowell.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was pretty dismayed too by the rise in that jump in the People's Party support. But it's interesting. I heard a pollster this morning, and I can't remember which one it was, but he did some polling on that. Like, they were pretty much always 2%, and they jumped to 6% in August. And when he polled on that, he found that that 4% was almost entirely anti-vaccine passport crowd.
Yeah,
and it was across all political spectrums. It really wasn't just conservative. So fingers crossed, it might not be as bad a news as it sounds.
Yeah.
Especially when there was another pollster on that polled the anti-vaccine crowd, and he found that the biggest demographic was actually women who vote Liberal, over 40. So you put the two together, and hopefully it's not as bad as what is looking.
Well, hope springs eternal. What do you see?
Yeah.
What do you think is going to happen Monday?
Well, I think it's obvious Trudeau's going to be in a weaker position than when he started, but with the NDP at his side, and they will be at his side, we're probably stuck with a couple more years of Liberal NDP government.
Let me see. This is what really. Excuse me. This is what really puzzles me. Would you not agree that O'Toole has done a better job campaigning than Scheer did?
Yes.
And which you would think would end up in more votes. You would think so, eh? If he's done a better job, you'd think he'd get more votes.
Yeah.
Well, I just once again point out that in the last election, Scheer got more popular votes, and yet the polling now indicates the popular vote is about even. But there's another factor here, and you mentioned it, and that is the NDP. Not much question in my mind that the NDP is going to do much better this time than it did last. And in almost every case, the NDP will take seats and votes away from the Liberals. So I still don't understand how O'Toole is still polling neck and neck with Trudeau with all of those factors involved. Because if that's true, that means that O'Toole, in fact, has done more poorly as far as the popular vote than did Scheer, and I find that hard to believe. It also means that Trudeau is doing better in this election than he did in the last election. I find that hard to believe. I could be wrong. How about boy? I'm puzzled by the whole thing here. Thanks for calling. I appreciate your thoughts, and I appreciate your hope as well. We need it. I want to talk for a moment here about Shields. Still getting calls from people who don't quite understand. It's hard for me to explain this in 30 seconds or whatever. But the fact is, the government of Canada, the Trudeau government, has announced that as of January 1st of next year, many of the appliances, freezers, fridges, etc., that we now are able to buy will not be available. The reason for that is that as of January 1st, all appliances sold in Canada will have to be Energy Star level. And many of the appliances we are buying today are not Energy Star level. Energy Star level was designed by the appliance manufacturers as a signal of the upper echelon, the more expensive brands, okay? And it's like instead of buying a Chevy, you buy a Cadillac. So the problem is that come January 1st, essentially, only Cadillac appliances will be available. And of course, they will be much more expensive. So Shields and Mark Shields keeps saying, Lowell, please tell your listeners, tell your viewers, get in here now. Buy the appliances now, because many of the appliances, the cheaper appliances, will probably not be available as of January 1st. He said, I know what's going to happen. People are going to be mad at me, but it's something that is out of his control, out of the appliance manufacturer's control. Give them a call. Check out the shields.ca, SCHEELS.ca. You'll see everything there. More texts coming in, John, yes.
By the way, I know somebody whose microwave stopped working last weekend. They went to Shields early in the week. They had it that very same day, and we're back microwaving and keeping things hot. There you go. 613-413-2217. Peter from Pembroke says, media is biased thanks to bribes. I truly believe the not needed election will result in a minority government. Watch Peterborough riding, Bellwether riding. The polling shows a tie. We have Arthur saying...
Can I just, let me interject.
Yeah, of course.
We had, as I told you yesterday, we had our big class reunion, McDonald College, 65 years. And one of those in attendance was a woman that I have known for many, many years. She was the wife of one of my dear friends who's no longer with us. But lo and behold, she lives in that Peterborough riding where Montsurf is. She says that a Montsurf is going to get her butt kicked. All of the polling indicates the Conservatives are far ahead there. So, Bunny, my dear, I hope you're right. Go ahead, John. Sorry.
We've made it super easy for you to connect to the show. If you just go to lowellgreen.com, it'll take you to the Blast the Radio page with all your links for social media, etc. Okay, Arthur, COVID restrictions, lockdowns, and vaccine passports are making O'Toole poll less than Scheer. Craig says, your caller is not taking into account the PPC currently has no seats in the House. I expect they will after this election. If the Conservatives have a minority, is it possible for the PPC to support them? To the top of my list here, Joshua, strategical voting doesn't seem relevant anymore, and that is why people's hate of Trudeau will give him the election. Glenn says, I see that Mad Max is stating that his leadership could change hands if his party membership wants it that way. Maybe a Tea Party style affiliation with CPC is in the wind. We have Nina saying people with COVID must do mail-in ballots. However, they're probably already too late. There was a deadline. Kim, on that very topic, says, I asked Elections Canada about proxy vote, which would have saved the COVID voters. They said proxy vote is not allowed in federal elections.
That's right.
Murray is big on Mad Max's party. He says a lot more people might be sick of the mainstream parties than you think, and bet there will be a lot more first-time voters.
Can I just respond to that?
Yes, sir.
If you're, if you say you're sick of the mainstream parties, okay, but I mean, how can you be sick of O'Toole? He has not been in power. He's not responsible for any of this. So I don't know how you can be sick of a guy that's just trying to unseat a guy that a lot of people are sick of. It doesn't make any sense to me. And, anybody with a brain, now you have a right to vote for whomever you wish, and you will. But very clearly, a vote for the PPC, they are not going to win. They stand no chance of winning. And a vote for them almost guarantees if enough people vote PPC, that means that the person that you like the least, Trudeau, you're going to guarantee his win. So a vote for the PPC, Mad Max, essentially is a vote for Trudeau. And yet many of you people say, do you want to get rid of Trudeau? Well, if you want to get rid of Trudeau, vote for the only party that can get rid of Trudeau, the Conservatives. My goodness gracious, land sakes alive. As my Aunt Lila used to say, what's the matter with you? All right. On another topic, many of the anti-maskers and the anti-vaxxers think that COVID is just a big scam. Apparently one of those is Mad Max, okay? They claim that any attempts at fighting it are just a total waste of time and an attempt by government to control you, etc., etc., etc. You've heard it all. Well, all you have to do is look at what's happening today in Alberta. I mean, what a disaster. This is what happens when you do exactly what the anti-maskers and the anti-vaxxers say we should do, and that is nothing. On July 1st, Jason Kenney made a big mistake, there's no question. He wasn't alone, the health authorities as well. They decided that, as according to Kenney, that the pandemic was over and it was now an endemic. In other words, it was just like the flu. So essentially they opened the province wide open. No masking, no vaccine, well, they were still vaccinating people, but there was really no pressure, etc., etc. And there was a very strong anti-vax movement in Alberta. Well, we know what happened. So Alberta has done exactly what you people in the PPC say we should do. No vaccines, no mask, no lockdowns, don't fight it. It's not a serious thing. Well, I mean, the ICUs are jammed. They're beside themselves in the hospitals in Alberta. They're begging other provinces to take some of the patients. It's getting worse. There were, 1,700 new cases yesterday. The ICUs are almost the ventilator. Now they're very close to having to make a decision who lives and dies. That's what happens, folks. When you follow Mad Max's advice, when you follow the PPC's advice, don't wear your mask, don't distance yourself, don't wash your hands, don't vaccinate. This is what happens. You know what? If that's the way you think, you should go to Alberta. It's quite astonishing. Where it's going to end in Alberta, God knows. As you know, they've had to adopt emergency lockdowns, etc., etc. But there is a limit to what hospital and healthcare workers can do. And not only that, there is a limit to the number of beds. There's a limit to the number of IC units. In Alberta now, in all of the hospitals, they are being told, cancel all elective surgery. There's another problem. And that is that it's not just people with COVID. Many people who desperately need other surgeries are being delayed. One of the attendees, one of the guys, my former classmates, has been waiting for 2 years to get a hip replacement. He keeps phoning this is in Quebec, keeps phoning the hospital, no, the beds are filled with COVID patients. 2 years, and he's in great pain. They've offered him morphine, for God's sake. This is what happens, folks. Even heart surgeries, cancer surgeries being canceled now, postponed in Alberta. Because why? Well, because people, for almost 99% of those who are there now, taking up these beds, taking up the ICU, etc., are people who did not get vaccinated and said, I'm not going to get vaccinated. Some of them are going to die. And in the meantime, those who are alive are taking up beds that other people could and should be using. John, we got some more texts coming in.
Darlene says, again, Lowell, it's not anti-vaxxers, it's freedom of choice. Big
bullshit.
Difference.
Ooh, you know what? We're fed up with you. We are fed up. 95% of the population of this country are fed up with people like you. You know what you are? You're like the person that swerves in and out of traffic at high speeds on the Queensway, risking everybody else's life. You don't give a sweet flying fox fart about anybody else, only you. Your little philosophy. You've seen something on the internet where somebody who claims to be a doctor, you've done your research on the internet. You know more than a million scientists, a million doctors, a million nurses. You know more. You know more. Right. Well, you know what? If you don't think you should be vaccinated, you don't think you should be masked, etc., go to Alberta then. You know, there's a province. Well, it's a little late now. Now they are into a lockdown there. But you should have gone to Alberta back in July. We're sick and tired of it. No more pulling punches. You people who refuse to get vaccinated are prolonging the pandemic. You are risking our lives, including mine and many others. You're risking our lives. You're costing us billions of dollars. You risk us another shutdown, etc., etc. We're fed up with you. You know what? You're no friend of mine, and you're no friend of people who are decent. John, go ahead, please.
Steve, thank you for following on Facebook. Hopefully you'll share that with your crowd. He says, COVID-wise, Ontario is one of the safest places in North America. Ottawa is even better.
Because why? Because we went and you know, let's face it, Doug Ford was heavily criticized. Lockdowns, masking, vaccinating. We have one of the highest rates of vaccines, people being vaccinated in all of the provinces. That's why. That's why we are in better shape than most, because we did what we had to do, all right? If you anti-vaxxers had your way, we would be just another Alberta, only much worse. Go ahead, John.
Conversely, Howard chimes in to say, I'll tell you what I've seen here in Florida so far. No wonder they are the worst for COVID. Oh my God, nobody wears a mask. Me and my wife do. Chrissy is on Twitch. She chimes in to say, COVID costing lives, not just COVID related. This is sad. These anti-vaxxers, anti-maskers need their own planet to live on. Regarding your last topic, the election, Ken says it'll be a minority government either way with NDP as kingmaker. An email from Lisa today. She says, Lowell, I don't think there is a politician provincially or federally worth the powder to blow a hole. Fed up with all of them blowing smoke up my arse. They aren't really offering me anything that will benefit me in any tangible, meaningful, or beneficial way. They need to either shit or get off the pot. Say what you mean what you say. They all know the right thing to do is, and they aren't nor won't.
You know, can I tell you something? If you are that cynical, then here is what I suggest. That you live up to your responsibilities and you go out and recruit somebody that you can support. Or better yet, run yourself. You know, it's all very easy to sit back and fire shots at other people. I mean, O'Toole, what has O'Toole done that's wrong? You know, he's a decent man, a good family man, but for that matter. But as I say, if you don't like any of the candidates, then go out and get a candidate that you can support. I'll bet you dollars to donuts that you have never, ever been involved in any way trying to support anybody. You've never lived up to your responsibility, because we all have a responsibility. If you don't think that the candidates that are running now are acceptable, then you go out, recruit some people, run yourself, or find some recruits, support somebody that you think will do a good job. That's your responsibility in a democracy. More text, please, John.
Lowell, Labor Day, CFL games in the West. Both games, there were maybe 1% of the crowd wearing masks. I don't know how many were vaccinated, but it seems a good chance that some weren't. That is a text at 613-413-2217. We've got Murray saying double jabbed are spreading it to why? I don't follow you, Murray. I don't know.
Murray, get a brain, please. Murray, okay? You know, stop writing with half your brain tied behind your back. It's unbecoming. Go ahead.
I think part of the problem, though, Lowell, is that, you know, you and I are talking now, and then it takes a couple of seconds to get to Facebook, then a couple more moments for it to bounce back. So he's commenting on something when he heard it, and I don't know. Anyway, that's it for comments right now, my friend.
All right. Well,
for Centennial Glass.
Yeah, let's hear it for Centennial Glass. Let's see I want to see those. Those wine racks again. Had several people comment on the wine racks. How do I get one of those? Well, I don't know how you get it, but I know how you get the glass, and that's it. You go to Centennial Glass, and also you notice a beautiful glass shower. These are really wonderful, and I'm going to tell you something. The glass showers are surprisingly inexpensive. They're beautiful, and they appear to take up so much less space. As I say, just around the corner we have a little washroom here, and we put one of the glass showers in there, and it's quite beautiful. People, when they come in, they comment, "Hey, this is really neat, glass shower." That's just one example of the kind of work, the kind of things that Centennial Glass does. Glass of any kind. Major jobs, small jobs, screen repairs, even the equipment, the cranks and so forth you have to crank out windows. If you're breaking some of those or some of them are missing, might be a good chance that Centennial Glass has those as well. Centennial Glass, Industrial Avenue, right near the train yards here in Ottawa, and in good old Renfrew. John, we're almost out of time here. I want to just urge everyone, please. You have in my opinion, I know this pisses some people off, but if we are in a democracy, I believe that you have a duty to do everything in your power to vote. Thousands of people have fought and died for your right to vote. Please, I know it may be inconvenient, may take up an hour of your day, you may not be able to quite find where the new location is, etc., but please, you know what? If thousands of our boys went off and fought and died so you could vote, some of them, as I say, spent 3 and 4 years over there, surely you can spend an hour. I know most of you will. Thank you all. We'll talk to you on Monday after you have voted. Thank you all.
The Lowell Green Show is seen and heard live around the world at 2 p.m. Eastern. Connect with us online at blasttheradio.com/Lowell Green. Can't join us live? Download the Lowell Green podcast. Available on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. Ask your smart speaker to play the Lowell Green podcast. This is a production of blasttheradio.com.